Now I want to go into this thing about omega-3s and vitamin B12. So first off, I'll say that my example, my mentor, Dr. Doug Graham, does not believe in taking any supplements, period. Okay, so he's not doing anything to bolster his omega-3s or his B12, and I'm sure he has a very good reason for that. I'm not sure. I've never heard him actually say how he gets his vitamin B12 and keeps his omega-3, omega-6 balance in check. But I'm assuming that since he has a very pure diet and has for 40 years, he's figuring that he's getting all the vitamin B12 he needs. Now, my understanding is that originally vitamin B12 was in the water. Okay, since it's a bacteria, it lives in the soil, it percolates into the water. But now that since the water is chlorinated almost everywhere you go, even if you buy water out of the water purification system at the health food store and it's filtered 5 different ways, it's not going to have any B12 in it. Okay, so I don't know where else, being a low-fat raw vegan, we can get B12. Okay, so I definitely supplement with a B12 with B12. I take 2,000 micrograms once a week. My experience with that is that, yes, when I was at Kanakiki, the low-fat raw vegan community, we had people on occasion coming up, people in the community were saying that they were really down, they just didn't have the energy, they didn't feel right, and they were on this low-fat raw vegan diet. And the suggestion was that they take vitamin B12, that it was probably a deficiency in vitamin B12. Whether or not that was true, who knows? But it happened to me, okay? And so I started taking vitamin B12 because I was feeling kind of run down. That could have been because of the amount of work, maybe, I don't know. But I thought I wouldn't take a chance and I'd just go ahead and get the vitamin B12 because there's not much risk involved in it, all right? Better safe than sorry. Okay, so 3 or 4 years ago, I ran up on this video by Dr. Michael Gregor. If you're not familiar with Dr. Michael Gregor, he's one of the most prominent plant-based physicians, primarily a research physician, and he's a presenter on YouTube. And he's doing a tremendous amount for people on a standard American diet in terms of convincing them and proving to them that a vegan diet, okay, in this case it's raw vegan, okay, like most of the most of the prominent doctor presenters who are vegans on the internet, they're all cooked, right? Most of them. There's a few that aren't. But anyway, so he's doing a tremendous amount in that area. But, from what I gather, he has no experience with raw food. Okay, he has no experience as a raw vegan, hasn't even paid attention to it, hasn't done any research on it, so he doesn't know about the raw vegan lifestyle. All right, so he's got this video, and the video, he made the presentation for the video based on the fact that he was amazed that, I believe his name is Jay Dinshaw, who is the president of the American Vegan Society, had died at the age of, I think, 57 from a heart attack, okay? So Dr. Gregor initiated a research project to find out how this could be. Jay Dinshaw had never eaten in his entire life. He'd never eaten animal products, right? Vegan from birth, apparently, right? So why did he die of a heart attack, right? We're supposed to have this low cholesterol, keeps us from getting heart disease, right? We're supposed to be healthier. Now, in my previous video, I cited what I had heard on the internet from plant-based presenters saying that, well, if you're a vegetarian, a lacto-ovo-vegetarian, you can add 6 or 7 years to your life. If you're a vegan, cooked vegan, you can add, like 10, 12 years to your life. If you're a raw vegan, we don't know because, you know, they haven't done the research. There aren't that many of us around. And I figured, well, at least, you know, I'm thinking we at least are going to get 20 extra years on our life if we're long-term raw vegans, all right? So you can check out video number 10 if you want to hear some more of that discussion. So Michael Gregor did all this research on cooked vegetarians and cooked vegans, okay? These big studies, anywhere from, 500 to, 15,000 people, they followed out over at least a decade. Here in the UK, here in the US and the UK, studies like the famous Lyon study, which compared the Mediterranean diet to the Heart Association recommended diet. Okay, that study, the famous 17th day Adventist research study that, thousands of vegan and vegetarian Adventist, Seventh-day Adventist people were followed out for many years. And so shockingly, he finds that actually vegetarians and vegans have a much higher chance of heart disease, degenerative brain disease, and bone deterioration. Okay, and I'm talking an extremely high chance, much higher than meat eaters. Okay, and these were mortality studies. So they followed people in groups and researched and noted when somebody died, okay? And what they found was the mortality rate was much higher at a lower age in vegetarians and vegans, okay? So, this is not the way it's supposed to be, okay, right? And he decided, he made an effort to find out why that was, okay? And he solved the dilemma, okay? And this video I'm linking in my description, and I think everybody who's either experimenting with a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, or is actually on a vegan or vegetarian diet, or has been for quite some time, needs to see this video. So the big question is, once you see the video and you see what the problem is, blah, 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 the solution, of course, or the causes were an imbalance in the omega-3, omega-6 ratio. It was much, much too high, okay, in the vegans and the vegetarians, cooked vegans, cooked vegetarians. It was way too high, and this was causing heart disease and a high rate of heart disease, a high rate of neurological disease, and a high rate of bone deterioration, primarily measured by hip fracture rate, okay? So, this is the reason, okay, he doesn't make the distinction between cooked vegan and raw vegan, okay? And this may make all the difference in the world, all right? I don't know. There's no information out there. Doug Graham says, no, we don't need to supplement. We don't need to bolster our omega-3s over the omega-6s, all right? That's what Doug says, but I'm not really seeing the research, so I'm playing it safe. So that's why I I grind up 2 tablespoons of flaxseed, which is all you need, and put it on my salad almost 5-6 days a week, okay? And that's also why I supplement with B12. So anyways, you got to watch the video. It really is eye-opening. And then you have to figure, well, does this apply to me? I'm a raw vegan. Do I need to pay attention to this, right? The jury's still out, but you should still know that is that's what's going on, okay? Especially if you're still eating cooked vegan or cooked vegetarian food, because you don't want to wind up as a casualty because you're not getting those nutrients. you know. So yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about there. And I'm going to let Dr. Gregor take that over. You need to look at his video. And I'm going to let Doug Graham tell you about white blood cell counts, okay? If you want to go directly to that segment of the 2-hour video, once again, it's at about 44 minutes, I believe. It could be 144. I don't exactly remember. I didn't write it down. But it's either one of those two. It's either you can blip over to 44 minutes into the video and he'll start talking about it, or it's 144. That's 1 hour, 44 minutes, okay? So there's a couple of other little things that I wanted to cover. That was the main subject that I wanted to cover. But I had a few topics here. Where are they? Oh yeah, here we go. So my next video is going to be on why and how I maintain a low-fat raw vegan. But I'm going to touch on some things on this video that I thought, while they're fresh in my mind. So the other day, I was confronted by a 45-year-old person, actually a resident of the shelter, homeless shelter, and he wanted to know how old I was. So I said, well, I'm going to be 70 in about 4.5 months, right? And he goes, oh my God, you're kidding me. You must take Viagra. So I said, no, I don't. I don't have any problem in that department, And, then he goes on to tell me how he's taking Viagra and how he's in almost constant abdominal pain, and he's got heart problems, and he's got all this stuff going on. He's 45 years old. Unfortunately, the other day when I was leaving the shelter at 5 o'clock in the morning, I came out to the gate of the shelter, and there was an ambulance there. And the ambulance was taking him away to the hospital because he was having such serious problems. This is a guy's 45 years old. I mean, he seems vital. He seems to have energy, yet he's got all these health problems. He has no conception of diet, But I thought that was funny. And that certainly was, just a reinforcement of why I follow this diet. So let's see, what else do I have going on here? Oh yeah, and then in the same shelter is another man with a heart condition, and he's in his 30s, right? And I'm not in a position to advise him on, what to eat. I mean, if it came up in a conversation, I don't know, it's a pretty low percentage in terms of me being able to convince him to completely change his diet. He probably can't afford it, number one. Living on $250 of food stamps every month, you can improve your diet, but, there's some limitations there. Oh, yeah, I wanted to touch on the vaccine, the whole vaccine thing, okay? So, and also make a note about lifestyle. In my lifestyle, I know exactly, in terms of contact, fairly frequent contact, I know exactly one vegetarian who happens to be the keyboard player in one of my bands. And I know one vegan, cooked vegan. All right. People I associate with, I'm not associating, I don't know any low-fat raw vegans. I don't know any raw vegans, okay? I see maybe 1 or 2 raw vegans that I met, years ago, every now and then, I run into them at the market or something, right? But the people I'm surrounded with on a consistent basis are totally standard American diet people, okay? And I don't know whether it's the number of years I have invested in being a low-fat raw vegan, but it doesn't really faze me, okay? If I sit down to eat with them, I just say, hey, this is what I eat, That's the way it is, I'm not ostracized or anything, I play in a nightclub one night a week, and everybody's eating pizza and drinking beer and blah, 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 and they're all into that. And I don't feel I do kind of feel out of place, but it's just part of the nature of what I do. So I accept it. But so what I want to say is that, yes, it's very nice and supportive to be around other raw vegans. It's great, right? You're on the same page. You know, a low-fat raw vegan has a sort of an aura about them, you know, a cheerfulness. Their attitudes are great. So it's great to be around them, you know. And it's just nice to be around people that you know are that conscious. You know they're doing the right thing and all that kind of. It's very supportive, you know. But it may not be possible, especially if you live in an urban environment. You know, you may not be able to get that going. Although, you know, I did used to go to a lot of potlucks. There's nothing going around here, but I recommend going to those potlucks, even if they're just vegetarian potlucks, because, you know, the vibe is much different and it's very supportive and you feel very good. And I will also say that, yes, it is a little bit more difficult if you have somebody cooking around you, eating cooked food, eating meat products, which I totally do not tolerate. I wouldn't live with a meat eater, period, or even somebody who consumed any kind of animal products. But that can make your lifestyle a little bit more difficult, especially in terms of being tempted to eat raw, cooked food, because cooked food is very appealing. I mean, it's like I said before, it's got that salty flavor, you know, and all that kind of stuff and that warmth thing. So, you know, as much as you can, you want to kind of avoid coming in contact with that, especially if you're in the first couple of years of being a raw vegan. And you might want to seek out some support, friends, go to potlucks, you know, this kind of thing. You know, right now, my only community is online. You know, I listen to presenters, raw vegan presenters online. You know, I go to UK Fruit Fest and listen to Ronnie's interviews, you know, and even that little bit of camaraderie that I get by watching videos makes me feel good. You know, I'm so glad there are other people out there who are discovering this lifestyle. You know, it's so heartening, and it just makes you feel great. So anyways, I was going to talk about the vaccine. Okay, the vaccine. So my one vegan friend, right, who I tried to talk out of getting the vaccine, but who wanted to get the vaccine so she could travel, okay, went ahead and got the vaccine, all right? She does have a couple of health issues. One is hyperthyroidism or something. But, you know, 2 months after getting that vaccine, her heart stopped. Okay. The paramedics had to be called. She basically died 3 times. They had to revive her 3 times. Once at home, twice in the hospital. Okay. She also suffered from rashes all over her hands. And right after she got the vaccine, she was deathly ill for 2 weeks. She thought she was going to die, but she would not go to the hospital because she didn't want to be tested for COVID. She didn't want anything to do with it, right? This is a personal experience. There was another woman down the road whose son was a standard American diet guy, but in his like 30s or 40s, who died immediately after getting the vaccine, okay, right? And she put an interview about how, and she talked about that, and the video was censored. It was pulled off of YouTube, okay? So I just wanted to bring those, you know, that thing up. And the other point I want to bring up is, okay, so I've been getting tested, you know, weekly, probably for the last, 3 or 4 months. Before that, I was getting tested monthly for the last 2 years because of my work, okay? So it has always come up negative. And what I'm starting to believe, because I know that, you know, the medical establishment, you know, there are things going on we just don't know about, right? I mean, they're so locked into standard American diet. that we don't know what that's doing to people's body. Well, we do know, but we don't know the total extent of it. Okay, so what I'm thinking now is it's quite possible that a low-fat, raw vegan lifestyle, okay, is preempting any kind of positive result on a COVID test. I'm really starting to think this, because here's the thing. Okay, I work with homeless people, both people in shelters and people actually on the street. Okay, the level of exposure to COVID for me is very, very high. Okay, I go to a music gathering and have been doing so for 2 years. Okay, this music gathering has 30 plus people showing up for it. We're all hugging each other. We're sharing food. We're singing in a circle. Okay. And I've been doing this for 2 years, and nobody ever gets sick, okay? Nobody has ever gotten sick or symptoms from COVID, all right? So, I just wanted to make that point, all right? About the fact that it's quite possible that a low-fat raw vegan can't even test positive for COVID. There might be there's like some biochemical, our diets are so pure. How could we possibly, we may not even be registering for whatever it is, spiked proteins or whatever, however they're whatever they're registering for. So I just wanted to bring that up about the vaccine. Like I've said before in videos, I'm personally totally unafraid of getting what I call the flu, right? And I think justifiably so that I think that. I really appreciate the likes and the views and the comments. They're helping me to become a more effective presenter, to get the message out to more people. So I really appreciate that. And if you do like, please hit that like button and subscribe. Just wanted to express my gratitude for that. I know I watch a lot of videos, and if I get something out of them, I forget to like them, So a lot of times I'll have to backtrack, pull up the video again and do a like, because, that's the least we can do for a presenter who's giving us information that we can use. The other thing is that about the vaccine, since I've been attending the University of Hawaii, I've been required to either have a vaccine or get a religious exemption from that vaccine, and the same thing goes for my work, my day job, so I was successful in getting a religious exemption based on ethical veganism. Okay, so what I did was I did some research, and I came up with some court cases both in England and in the United States where judges ruled that ethical veganism was a particular philosophy, which means that it is categorized as a religion, because religion really is all about philosophy, right? So since ethical veganism, is a philosophical outlook, okay, the courts have ruled that vegans, ethical vegans, are entitled to an exemption from getting a vaccine based on the fact that all vaccines, with no exceptions, have to be tested on animals. Okay? So it's directly contrary to ethical veganism. And I am an ethical vegan. I didn't start out that way, but I quickly became one. So if anybody out there, anybody watching this video is faced with that dilemma of not wanting to get a vaccine, please email me at 20at70, 20at70 @gmail.com, and I will send you the essay that I wrote with the citations of the legal cases where there was a ruling in favor of the applicant based on their ethical veganism. I'll be more than happy to send that off to you if you're faced with the same thing. So I just wanted to add that. Yoga and astrology. And I just wanted to make a point about the astrology. Okay. You know, I noticed that my last video that was yoga and astrology only got 20 views, right? So I fully understand that people are not really interested in astrology. Okay. It's like, you know, like I said before, it's considered to be like hippie bullshit. But I do want to urge people to tune into this, because a huge part of our existence on this earth is what I call human understanding ourselves and other people, right? And the conflicts, the wars, the arguments, the fights, all of it, okay? Most of it is based on the fact that we don't have an understanding of who we're dealing with, okay? We don't have the correct expectations about other people. And my take on astrology is that it is the science that will give us the understanding we need to prosper in the new millennium. And I also want to make a point about the new millennium. Most people think that dates are just dates. We're just keeping track of the passage of time, right? But the fact is that there's a great significance about going from one millennium to the next, okay? So I was born halfway through the last 100 years of the previous 1,000 years. 1,000 to 2,000. Okay, I was born in the 1950. 1952. Last 50 years I've seen of the end of the previous millennium, and now I'm 22 years into the next millennium, the next 1,000 years. Okay, so first of all, this is a very significant time, this transition. And it's so obvious. I mean, look what's going on in the world, right? Nothing like this has ever gone on, with the human race before. I mean, it's crazy, right? And this started in the 60s, okay? The 60s started to explode things open. It paved the way for the new millennium, all right? It sort of alerted us about what was on the way, and that there were alternatives, okay? And now we're 22 years into it, and we're seeing these major overturns of what we thought to be true, the organization of governments, the socialization, the social structures are all being stressed and torn apart, right? So this is as much a result of what they call the precession of the equinoxes. And so I'm just going to offer this one bit of evidence up, okay, that astrology needs to be taken seriously. And the precession of equinoxes is an astrological phenomenon. Okay, so the way that works, the way the precession of the equinoxes work, is that the millenniums go backwards through the astrological cycle, right? Ordinarily, the astrological cycle starts with Aries, progresses to Pisces, and then starts over. The 12 signs, it goes that way. But the precession of the equinoxes, which is the change of the millenniums, goes backwards. Okay, so here's the piece of evidence I want to offer you. The last 1,000 years, okay, was considered by is signified as the Piscean age. Okay, we were in the Piscean age for 1,000 years. Pisces, right? The symbol for Pisces is the same symbol for Christianity, for Christ. Okay, the fishes. All right, Piscean Astrology is closely linked to spirituality. It's the last sign of the spiritual quadrant. It is the most spiritual sign of all the signs, okay? And it's also associated with Christ, using the same symbol, etc., etc. So what has happened over the last 1,000 years in terms of humanity? Well, the most significant thing that has happened in the last 1,000 years is that Christianity came into its own and made its way to virtually every single corner of the earth, every society, every place on the globe, okay? So over the past 1,000 years, Christianity has basically conquered the entire world, all right? With all of its bad effects and very few, some of its good effects, right? But mostly it resulted in people dying, being tortured, inquisitions and the wiping out of native cultures and brainwashing and all of this kind of stuff, right? So that's what we've been putting up for 1,000 years, right? And that's indisputable, okay? As soon as the Christian movement was verified by the Roman Empire, okay, it took off and it took over everything, and now it's everywhere, okay? So that's what happened in the last 1,000 years. All right, so entirely predictable, if we look at the precession of the equinoxes. Now, if we're going backwards, we have just entered the Aquarian age, okay? The Aquarian age is all about those things that are associated with the sign of Aquarius, okay? So anyways, I'm going to drop it right there. And please tune in to my astrology, because I'm telling you right now, astrology to psychology is like low-fat raw vegan to standard American diet, okay? Really. Just think about that, and I hope you tune in, because it's going to be tremendously helpful for you with dealing with people, dealing with yourself, having an understanding of other human beings, knowing what to expect from them. Okay, I'm not going woo-woo. I'm not getting into predictions. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm not doing charts. I'm not doing aspects. I'm not doing any of that stuff. Okay, it's a completely different look at astrology, and it's entirely appropriate to this changing of the millenniums, right? And, another thing I want to add is that, if you're into raw food, you're fringe, okay? I'm a fringe person. I'm not a standard, I'm not a typical person. I don't have typical experiences. Chances are you don't either, okay? Most people get into vegetarianism, raw foodism, either because of the animals, ethical veganism, or because of their health. They have a major health crisis and they need an alternative. Okay, those are the two biggest reasons why people get into vegetarianism. And it immediately puts you a little outside the normal, okay? So, but really what we are the harbingers of the coming years of this millennium, okay? We are the people that are laying the groundwork. We're the ones that are going to lead the way. I mean, you can't tell me that 200 or 300 years from now, people are going to still be consuming animal products. If they are, they're going to be segregated on some part of the earth, right? And they're going to be defending themselves and cutting off everybody else, right? But 200 to 300 years from now, we're going to look back at, humanity's going to look back at what we did, in 2022, murdering billions of animals and consuming their flesh and all this kind of stuff. And it's going to look to them like the Elizabethan era looks to us, where they had all these animal, things on their plates on these big tables, and they wiped their, they didn't use napkins and stuff like that, and sewage was allowed to flow in the street. And, we're going to be looking back at and thinking, my God, they ate animal products, right? So, you need to consider this a privilege, okay? We have the privilege right now of taking a crack at the most beneficial species-specific diet, the most healthful way of eating, okay? We've got a crack at it, okay? We have the privilege of being exposed to this and being able to pull it off. Can you imagine 100 years ago? You would have never gotten information like this, okay? It would have been a billion to one that you would ever had been able to speak with somebody who was a low-fat, raw vegan, okay? So the time is now. You have to consider yourself to be a privileged human being. You have to consider yourself to be a harbinger of somebody who is bringing the world into the new millennium. So, that is all I have to say there. Please tune in to that. My next video is going to be how and why I maintain the low-fat, raw vegan lifestyle. So, great. I hope you all got something out of this. I look forward to doing the next video. And really have a beautiful day, night, morning, evening, whatever it is for you. Good night.